Measuring impact is such a hard part of what we do. And we set out, don't we, in terms of what we want to achieve, and it all sounds good.
And it can be done in a variety of different ways. And I think that's what we've learned along the way, is that initially, I think data in terms of numerical data is much easier to go, oh, look, this is really mattering. Look at this. They've made this much progress in reading. This is fantastic, which has happened in certain partnership work that we've been doing. But for us, the fundamentally important bit is the impact it's having on our children's character, the impact it's having on our children's opportunities, their confidence, their resilience, their respect of each other, of other adults coming in.
But I think that was the, not the mistake, but the realization to us that you can't just have numbers on a piece of paper. You can't just have metrics that say, yes, we achieved what we set out to achieve. And I think
because you don't know what you're measuring initially, you go into these partnership programs and you think, gosh, this is going to be brilliant. And you don't actually know that, for example, I'm going to use this example of the child who did his environmental rap to John when he came in to visit. That's a child who was a previous school refuser, who doesn't really engage in curriculum lessons, but however felt he was able to do that because of the programs that we've built. So I think the impact for partnerships can't be seen as just something where you are ticking a box of filling a numeracy need or a literacy need or whatever it is. It has to be seen as something more holistic, more about the whole child. What are we enabling them to do by forming this partnership? From both sides.
I think so. And it's interesting, the rap stories.
Love the rap story.
It was a good rap.
Yeah, it's a great rap.
It was a great rap. I can't remember it.
Nor can I.
No, but it was a good rap. But I think that's what our students see, is that they have that child do the same to them.
Yeah.
And our 16-year-old stands tall and thinks,
I
made that difference.
Well, they save them seats. They won't let the session start until they're there. They really, they've come on trips with us. I think the impact is whatever you hoped it to be if you form the partnership in a way that allows that to happen. So if you are an institution whereby numerical data is really important, then you build your partnership around that.
But we've got some numerical data.
We have.
And that informs us in terms of, are we doing the right thing?
In that area, that's appropriate for that area, which is around reading and phonics. The other opportunities can be measured through pupil voice, through sort of observations from the teachers.
And don't forget the storytelling, because I think the storytelling's made a huge contribution to our students.
Absolutely.
Asking them what's the most significant change, why is that change important to them, what caused that change, and that I think has been, although it hasn't been able to record it as a list of statistics, it certainly lets us understand of what's happening and why it's happening and what that's doing to the individual. It's powerful.
It's built bridges, and it's built huge communication between two communities that previously weren't communicating and were just two islands really in the same area. So I think that is also impact. That's a really positive thing for both the children and the staff who live in the area.
Don't forget as well how sometimes the boys, our boys, really struggled with using the right language.
Yeah.
Because they're in this sort of this sector, this world which they have particular
and
ways
signals. We communicate with our children in a different way. Exactly, the stop sign.
But they've learnt that, and I think that's empowered them to feel more comfortable in situations and environments perhaps they wouldn't necessarily have found themselves in.
We've had some amazing students from John's school come. I mean, there's one particular student who massively saved me in a group that I was leading, whereby he stepped up and ended up leading the biology session that I was doing because I'd got myself in a bit of a muddle. And he's a student for whom I believe was struggling a little bit, finding his place. And he came and he absolutely shone. And to the point that I wrote to his tutor and said how absolutely brilliant he was.
He found his real niche. He really struggled in the classroom. He really struggled to find his own under that sort of teacher-led approach. He surprised us all. It was amazing.
He was brilliant.
Certainly our musical experiences, some of the children that took part in the G Live training, not just the performance on the night actually, but also the build up to it, where West End professionals visited our school, worked not only with the children but with our staff as well. So there's staff development involved, staff engagement. That's invaluable. And I know some of those children would never have had the opportunity to stand on a stage in front of 1,000 people without that network and that partnership. And some of them have come away, and I know they want to go and do performing arts at GCSE now. So it's lovely to hear that from the children. Also, we have at my particular school, 2 children I know have gone on to go to one of our partner secondary schools, private schools, and that is wonderful to see the destinations they're choosing. First time ever, actually, that's happened from our school. So just in terms of their aspiration, seeing what's out there, going to those venues, mixing with those different cohorts of children, has given them an aspiration that perhaps wasn't there before. Thirdly, in terms of our staff, we've had wonderful CPD. We were invited, myself and my deputy head, to an attendance conference at one of our partner schools, and the access to the professionals speaking there from the DFE, really, really eminent people in their field. I would get charged as the head, I don't know, £200-300 per delegate to go on a course like that. And when the budgets are very tight, as they are at the moment, that's a choice that often is made to stay in school. So to be able to go and know that's funded and it's there for us to access is brilliant. And we've come back and implemented several things from that, which are directly benefiting the children and their attendance levels. So it's not just pupils, it is also staff development as well. Huge impact.
I'm challenged all the time to demonstrate impact that we're having. As you suggest, it is expensive, huge resource, huge amounts of staff time, and it is quite right that we are challenged on the impact that these partnership activities are having. And there are some areas of impact that are very easy to measure. Children learning to swim 10 metres is straightforward. Children even perhaps learning to read is straightforward, but there are lots of areas where it is much harder to assess impact. We're not examining our children at the end of these partnership activities. So what do we do? And there are a number of things that we do at some point in every activity. So we may ask them to complete surveys. We'll get them to put smiley faces and sad faces on at the end of events to give us a sense of outcome.
Yeah, it's the age-old question of impact reporting. It's difficult. It's difficult to collect data. When I first started doing partnerships 10 or 15 years ago, it wasn't such a big thing. In fact, it wasn't called partnerships. It was just actually schools working together. And I suppose most of our impact reporting back then was qualitative. It was the stories that you tell. But I think I've realised over the years that, if I'm going to go out to industry partners and get them involved, or if I'm going to get funding from the school that I work in, or if I'm going to, try and get my teachers involved or whatever, I have to have some quantifiable data. And so we've done a huge amount of work on this. So we collect everything, what school's coming, how many girls, how many boys, how many free school meals, what demographic, absolutely everything. I've been through every single Ofsted report in a 5-mile radius of our campuses. Once you've got all that data, you can then draw upon that data. So as a partnerships lead, you have to create reports for different stakeholders. So a report for parents is very different to a report for trustees, which is very different to a report that you send out to your industry partners. So we have that database of data that we collect, and then we use that data to fuel our reporting procedures. Now, we keep a close eye on those reporting procedures to make sure that we're not doing too much local. We're doing international as well. So local, national, international. Making sure we do different key stages. So if we're leaning more towards key stage 1, 2 and not doing enough for key stage 3, our system will tell us.
We know that it's really important to have an understanding of the impact, and we know that it's making an impact on our pupils through the parents' voices, through the pupils' voice. But we do have lots of inspired children who are able to articulate in their own words what that partnership has meant to them, albeit through various opportunities. More recently, I can think of our project to deal with targeting children who are overweight and obesity in our area, and lots of the children having to collect data as part of our project alongside the partnership school, and running a petition in the Houses of Parliament as well, trying to get everything together. We know that we've had lots and lots of people, not just within our school, but in our neighbouring schools who want to take part in that partnership. And you've given us many links as well, which has been really good. So we know we're making an impact from the response from the children, from the parents, and also from the inspiration and motivation that we're seeing through everyone.
We try and make our data gathering different too. So it's very common for your data gathering to be a survey. So you send a survey out to parents, so you send a survey out to the kids. Once you've surveyed the kids once or twice, they're like, oh God, it's another survey. So we do things differently. So on a recent event, the kids got stamps, and when they got so many stamps, they got some reward, and then we can use that data later on to tell our organisations that work with us who they've seen and what good they've done in the world. But thinking about surveys from the perspective of the children. So a recent survey we did was all cartoon characters asking the questions. So trying it in different ways for different people. So our survey to parents is obviously going to be very different to the survey to teachers, from the survey to children. And then we're moving on to a badging platform, and the badging platform will measure skills. So if a student comes and does an event, in the metadata for that badge will be the skills that are attached to that event, what the kids are learning. And the beautiful thing is that when they get their badge for teamwork, they'll get an email saying, congratulations, you're a good team player. Would you like to post it to social media? And it gives them the option to post it to Snapchat and Instagram and so on. But for the older kids, it gives them the option to post it to LinkedIn. And when it posted to LinkedIn, it pulls the skills out and puts it into their LinkedIn profile. So trying to think outside the box with the data and making sure that we're not just collecting data for the sake of it. Every single piece of data has a use.
It's tricky because the raw data does not actually answer everything. And I think that a lot of the time you have to look at the children in your school. So as a head teacher, I'm looking at the children who are impacted by the partnership work. So for example, part of our partnership work has involved us being able to get funding, which has enabled us to provide counselling for children. So each of us have a child counsellor coming in and supporting a few children in our school each week. And the impact of that is, it's not something you can necessarily measure easily, but you can see it. You can see it in the children's confidence, in their resilience, in their in the changes in their attitudes to perhaps their learning, their attendance, their behaviour, and then the wider impact that can have on their classmates and then the staff that work with them. But then other amazing experiences that they can take part in, being part of the partnership. So my school is a very small school, so the opportunities for children in small schools or in remote locations to be able to go to a large theatre and perform with lots of other children, and the joy you see on children's faces when they come from a smaller school and maybe are used to singing with 20 children in a choir, and then they sing with 200 children in a choir, and the impact that's having. It's not easy to measure, but it's something that they take with them.
I pick up on that as well. I think that there are huge advantages on individual student level for these things, especially enabling them to hold their head up high in any environment, be able to face life with, head on and tackle those challenges, giving them opportunities outside of school in unfamiliar territory with unfamiliar peers to really grow their confidence, empower them, give them a voice in the area. And actually a lot of what our partnership is doing at the moment is focusing on student voice, and not just within a school context, but allowing them to work with our borough council and other organisations to grow their influence within the town as well. So for me, I think it's a broadening of horizons, and the difficult question that it begs is how does one measure a broader horizon? And I think this is why, as a sector, it's important that the story we tell is really, really strong, and that we do provide the data that is required to measure our impact, but also plead the case that we need to be fairly open in how we discuss the impact of partnerships, and that we perhaps look at a broader range of data and evidence to suggest that we are making a difference. One thing we rely on very much as secondary school areas, we can look at our alumni, we can look at success outcomes for our students further down the line. Was that student able to reach the goals they'd set for themselves? And are they able to then come back and talk to us about how their work with our partnership enabled them to develop the skills and the confidence they needed to follow their dreams and do what they wanted to do? And I think those are always the most powerful things that we can get, really, from my perspective.
The impact has been massive in terms of how students have started to see each other, and it's not about them and us.
The students from our school look forward to Wednesdays as much as the students from your school. It's a release from day-to-day boarding life. Right? You get to meet different people. You also just get to do something you want to do with people you like. And if I'm honest, that's invaluable. That's a life lesson in itself. And I think when we came to the summer, I think some of the things that our students will have learned is when we came to take a rowing boat out, which our boys take for granted, absolutely, that they're going to go every Wednesday, that your students were far more confident than ours. And you'd have thought that would have been the other way around, and you could see some of our students holding back a little bit. You're like, we're straight in the boathouse, get it on the river, okay, we're off. And it's like, okay, then we'll follow behind. And then, of course, you mix up the boat. You put 4 and 4 into a boat. Well, all of a sudden, then you're talking about teamwork, you're talking about decision-making, and everyone gets a go at it. And I think, if nothing else, it just meant that our boys were in a completely different environment that they would have been otherwise. And it was really good to see them just learning from your students really clearly.
We do several other things, don't we, through the primaries as well, in terms of we run a baseball program.
The baseball program was absolutely brilliant.
And it was quite funny. In the summer, we had all the local primaries, all the Year 5 students. We had leaders from Radley College, leaders from TOA with staff from both schools. And some of the boys turned out, didn't they, in terms of, say, our 3G football pitch. And we're like, why haven't we got this?
Yeah, why haven't we got a 3G footbridge? Can we play this one?
Yeah, it was quite a nice, unique moment of having that. Our students go, oh yeah, this is our football pitch we found all the time.
And all of a sudden, the school fields, because it's in the middle of summer, the school fields were flooded with 1,000 children. Well, we don't often see that. We see it on an organised game afternoon, and we might see them wandering around school. But it was about everyone came out, bell went, everyone went back in, and that's really quite strange. And people were watching the baseball from the banks. So other people were watching, like your students and our students and the primary students perform. It was just one of those really brilliant days where everybody got something out of it. I loved it. It was just brilliant. It was really good. I mean, I would say the other thing we do is with the primary children that we bring into the school, Grant and I run a program whereby we offer children from the primary schools the opportunity to come over to our school on a Saturday morning to use a strength and conditioning gym with strength and conditioning members of staff. And the first couple of times they came over and the first couple of times they came into dining hall, they were very meek, very mild, wouldn't do anything. Now you can't stop them running back out the dining hall to get seconds. You can't. And our children have really understood. They've become so confident, these primary children, in 2 or 3 visits.
Yeah.
I don't think our boys would have done that. I genuinely don't think if they went to another school that they would feel that confident around that. And I think seeing that confidence ooze out of children who are only 10 and 11 would be brilliant.